Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege of Parshas Shlach. And the Parsha contains the dramatic and traumatic story of the Meraglim, the spies. What begins as, at least what appears superficially, as a good idea, a reconnaissance mission. Klal Yisrael recognizes that entry into Eretz Yisrael is going to have to be done with war. War requires strategy. War requires planning. And therefore, again, Moshe Rabbeinu says, go into the land, scout it out, spy it out. And Moshe Rabbeinu even gives them a whole list of questions. Look at the inhabitants. Are they strong? Are they weak? Look at the cities. Are they fortified? Are they unfortified? And then Moshe Rabbeinu says in Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Chaf, Uma ha'aretz. Then look at the quality of the land itself. Hashmeina hi imraza. Is it a fertile land? Is it an infertile land? Hayesh ba'etz im ayin. Does it have trees? Doesn't it have trees? Vishazaktem. And again, you shall be strong. Ulakachtem mipri haaretz. You shall bring back from the fruit of the land. V'hayamim yimei bikurei anavim. And this was the day of the grapes, the time of the grape harvest. So on a most basic level, what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying is after he gives them all the strategic information, right? So you got to find out, are the inhabitants strong or weak? Are the cities fortified or unfortified? That's all about military strategy. Then Moshe Rabbeinu was looking to show them, look how beautiful and plentiful and fertile the land is. Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly what he was doing. He said, bring back the fruit, show the people. Remember, again, we've been all this time, again, only 2 years in the desert. We've been all this time into the second year in the desert. So again, and then we're sustained by man, but there's no natural vegetation. There's no fertile soil. So show the people what they're going into, a land that is rich, a land that is plentiful, in Eretz Zavas Chalav U'Devash, a land which flows with milk and honey. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Vishazaktem, be strong, or you will gain strength. Ulakachtem and pri haaretz, take from the fruit of the land. V'hayamim yemei bikurei anavim. Bring back the fruit. Bring back the fruit. So of course we know the end of the story, and the end of the story is that this plan just goes off the rails, and everything ends so profoundly tragically. It ends tragically for our ancestors, and it ends tragically for us, because the truth is that the identity of the day of Tisha B'Av as a day of mourning, a day of loss, a day of heartbreak, was really created and concretized with the sin of the spies. They came back, they delivered their disastrous report on the night of Tisha B'Av. And so, unfortunately, even to this very day, we feel the aftershock of this overwhelming and traumatic event. But the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh makes a beautiful observation. The Rebbe says, it's interesting, the wording of the phrase, V'eschazaktem ulakachtem mipri haaretz. That literally, again, what does this mean? Strengthen yourselves, V'eschazaktem, you will be strong, and bring back from the fruit of the land. So the Rebbe says, the Baal Shem Tov says something absolutely beautiful. I want to quote you. He says, Alecha lakachas lamash uladugmas tevunas haaretz. So the Rebbe says, what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to the Meraglim, and by extension us, is Vishazaktem. I want you to gain chizuk. I want you to strengthen and to bolster yourselves. How? By ultimately, again, looking at the produce, looking at the fruit that grows. Vishazaktem. How do you go ahead and have chizuk? How do you bolster and strengthen yourself? Ulakachtem mipri haaretz. By taking muser from the fruit of the earth. What's the pshat? What's the muser from the fruit of the earth? Listen to what the Rebbe says. Tchila zorim. When you plant something, so what you have to do is you have to take the seed, you put the seed into the ground. Then what happens? What does the seed do? The seed decomposes. It virtually disappears into the soil. Verak acharei shazera nirkav lechalutin. Only after the seed decomposes and virtually disappears, hafach la'efes, it looks like it's turning to nothing. Maschil hazera litzmoach. Only then does the real fruit begin to grow. Only once the seed decomposes, virtually disappears, and looks like it's non-existent, then and only then does the real growth begin. And says the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, this was the muser. This was the message that Moshe Rabbeinu was giving to Klal Yisrael. V'eschazaktem. If you want chizuk in life, where can you get the best chizuk from? The best strength, the best way to bolster yourself, to steady yourself, to self-actualize? Ulakachtem mipri haaretz. Take a muser from the fruit of the earth. Take a muser from vegetation. Take a muser from the seeds. Things only grow once they first decompose. almost virtually disappear, then and only then is when real growth occurs. What is the Rebbe saying? So I think, Chavra, a lot of times when we experience bracha in life, bracha and blessing is a beautiful thing. But the truth is, if we're honest, rarely is blessing a catalyst for growth. It's just human nature, right? When I get a bracha, think about this. Think about the last time some beautiful bracha presented itself to you in life. So there's a tremendous feeling of elation, a tremendous feeling of hakaras hatov, of gratitude. But I venture to say, again, I only speak from personal experience, it's often short-lived. And today's bracha becomes tomorrow's expectation. That's just human nature, right? You get something that you were davening for, yearning for, pining for, you get it, and you're so excited because you feel like the gift-kite of it. And then again, the gift of today becomes just the expectation and necessity of tomorrow. That's why, interestingly enough, bracha is usually not the greatest catalyst for growth. But Hashem the HaKadosh is saying something amazing. Do you know what is the greatest catalyst for growth? Failure. There's no greater catalyst for personalistic growth and self-actualization than failure. And the bigger the failure, the bigger the opportunity. Because in the aftermath of failure, what I often feel is like a zero, is like a nothing. I feel like that decomposed seed. Sometimes in life, I make such poor decisions, I make such wrong turns that I literally feel like I have nothing left. Like I've divested myself of all of my kedusha. Like everything I've worked for in life has just dissipated because of the bad decisions, the wrong turns that I've made. I feel like that seed, here I was this beautiful seed. I've been placed in the soil of dynamic activity, ready and poised to accomplish and to do. And now look at me. I've decomposed. And as the Baal Shem says, hafach le'efes. I look almost like a nothing. But here's the incredible part. In that moment, when you feel like a nothing, and in that moment, maybe even when you look like a nothing, in that moment, when you feel that everything and anything good about you has decomposed, that's the moment where the greatest growth could occur. It's in that moment of when I feel the lowest. It's in that moment when I feel the least significant. It's in that moment when I feel so profoundly underwhelmed by the life that I'm living and so profoundly disappointed by the wrong decisions that I've made. It's in that moment when my personalistic seed has decomposed and I feel like an efes, like a nothing. Oh, that's the moment that great things could occur. That's the moment when everything could turn around. That's the moment that the magic begins to happen. Tremendous personalistic dynamic growth does not come on the heels of bracha. Because the bracha of today is just taken for granted tomorrow. That's the way it works. But when you fail, and when you fail big, and when you feel like everything you've worked on is just simply dissipated and decomposed, that's the moment the magic happens. That's the moment that the greatest accomplishment can happen. That's the moment where, because it doesn't look like there's anything, everything becomes possible. In the moment where there is nothing, everything becomes possible. And Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to gird us with this tremendous advice on two levels. Moshe Rabbeinu, I think, understood deep down that even if he thought that the Meraglim was a good idea to scout out the land and a reconnaissance mission, Moshe Rabbeinu was smart enough to know, he lived enough to know that this was not going to be easy regardless, that they were going to see stuff like this. And Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, Chevra, when it looks the worst, that's ultimately, again, when there's the greatest amount of opportunity. And even ex post facto, after the Chet Meraglim, I think Moshe Rabbeinu was steadying us and was bolstering us again. And he was saying, okay, after the Chet Meraglim, can you imagine the feeling of our ancestors after they accepted that disastrous report and they got the verdict from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that they're not going to go into the land, that for 40 years we're going to die out in the desert? Can you imagine what that felt like? And Moshe Rabbeinu said, Chevra, essentially, calm down. It's bad. The seed has decomposed. We divested ourselves of all of our kedusha, but it's dafka in this moment where there's nothing that we could accomplish everything. Sometimes once the seed disappears, is the moment when dynamic growth could happen. Sometimes it's the aftermath of failure, when everything evaporates, that suddenly now I have the greatest opportunity to make of myself what I want. This was the chizuk that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Klal Yisrael, and it's the chizuk that we must inculcate within ourselves to this very day. Friends, we are standing here now. We're living now through another stage of this war that began over 620 days ago with October 7th, has now entered into a new phase, a war with Iran. And there's a piece of us that sometimes feels like a little bit zerbrochen, like a little bit broken, a little bit sad. Just this morning we saw about the missile attack on Soroka Hospital. Attack a hospital, and we know there's not going to be some chorus of condemnation from the world because it's a Jewish hospital in the Jewish state. So who does it affect? So there's not going to be a UN resolution, and there's not going to be, again, like I said, that chorus of condemnation. It's not going to happen. And sometimes, you feel so broken on the inside. And then I feel so broken wondering, what's going to be, what's going to happen? But we can never allow ourselves to fall into that state of Yeush, besides the overwhelming and incredible and beautiful miracles that we see day in and day out happening to our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. Even aside from all of those incredible miracles, Dafka, when things look the most difficult, Dafka, when they're bombing our hospitals and they're bombing our civilian centers, and our brothers and sisters are forced to go ahead and spend hours and days in shelters, Dafka, in these times where it looks like the seed decomposes, is the time that we are is the moment that we are on the cusp of something dramatic. We will win this war. We will obliterate the greatest state sponsor of global terrorism. We, Klal Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Medinas Yisrael, a Jewish army, will be the tip of the spear to eradicate this scourge of evil from the world. We will do it. We will take care of this business for the world. Even though it looks so dark on so many other fronts, even there is still so much loss. And there might be moments where, again, that feeling of sadness, what's happened to the beautiful seed of Klal Yisrael? Where did it go? Do you remember life before October 7th when everything felt so bright, so beautiful, so vibrant? And now what's happened? But the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says, Mosha Rabbeinu tells us, no, that's not the way it works. Sometimes when you don't see the seed, when things are most difficult, is dafka, when the greatest magic is about to occur. And what is true on the national level, and that magic is going to occur, Chavra. We're going to see it. We're going to continue to see dramatic things in the coming days, dramatic things that are going to forever alter the trajectory, not just of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, but of the world. And we are going to be Zocha to have a hand in that. And on a personal level, we make mistakes. And sometimes we make really, really big mistakes. And sometimes in the aftermath of those mistakes, I'm like, you know what? This one, I can't recover from this one. I can't recover from this one. That's it. I'm down and out. I can't recover from this mistake. It's not true. The bigger the failure, the greater the opportunity. The bigger the mistake, the greater the fertility of the soil, personalistic soil in my life ahead. The bigger the downfall, the bigger the rot, the more decomposed the seed is, the more advanced the decomposition, the closer I am to creating something beautiful and new. As the seed, remember when the seed is whole, the seed could only accomplish so much. But when that seed decomposes and disappears, there's no telling what it could accomplish. Sometimes it's dafka, when we fall the lowest and we hit that rock bottom and the personalistic seed decomposes. That's dafka the moment when there is nothing, that everything becomes possible. We should be so Amiras Hashem to tap into this strength, this chizik of the Baal Shem Tov, this chizik of Moshe Rabbeinu, as a nation, and Amiras Hashem as individuals as well. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.